Some books you find in bookstores or by recommendation. Others, like this one, find you, often without fanfare, without explanation. And when they do, it means something profound has occurred behind the scenes of your reality. Not by logic or circumstance, but by the subtle tuning of your soul with something it has long remembered. Perhaps you too have sensed this, that quiet pull, that sudden knowing. And now, you're here, with this voice in your ears, in this very moment. Pause and notice where you are. What time is it where you live? Leave a comment if you're watching now. What pulled you here? The hour you clicked play is no accident. It is part of the invitation. There's a rhythm to spiritual awakening, a pulse beneath the surface of ordinary life. It might feel like coincidence, but it's not. It might feel like a strange familiarity, but it's actually deep memory, something ancient waking up. And that's what this book is. Not a manual, not a teacher, but a mirror, a reminder, a sacred return, like Evelyn in the market. Remember her? She didn't know what she was looking for, only that something had begun to call. And then she saw it, a leather-bound book glowing faintly in the shadows. Not with light, but with resonance. When she opened it, the title faded, as if to say, "The name doesn't matter. The message is for you, and you alone." The words, timeless, familiar. They stirred something deeper than thought, and now it is your hands holding such a book. No, not literally, but in essence, in vibration, in readiness. You did not click here by chance. This moment has been building quietly for lifetimes, and when your soul reached the right frequency, this message emerged, not as content to consume, but as light to remember. Think about how many doors you've walked past, how many books you've skimmed, videos you've ignored, and yet this one stuck. This one stopped you. That's because your inner being has aligned, finally, with the frequency of reception. There is no randomness here, only resonance. You might feel a tingle in your chest, a pause in your breath. That's not emotion. That's recognition. Now imagine a librarian named Henry. He spent decades walking through rows of ancient books, brushing dust from covers but never opening the one that mattered, until the day his wife passed, and grief cracked his heart open wide enough to let wisdom in. That day, he reached for that familiar spine. The book opened effortlessly. The words felt like balm. They were exactly what he needed. Not because the book changed, but because he did. Like Henry, like Evelyn, you are now entering that sacred chamber, the one you've passed 1,000 times without knowing. The difference today is not the door, it's you. The version of you listening now is ready to sit in the stillness that once felt unbearable, to breathe in what you once ignored. So I invite you now, light a candle, take your journal, and in the hush between this sentence and the next, ask silently, why has this book found me now? Don't force the answer. Let it come the way a ripple finds the shore, gently, inevitably. Let your pen move without needing to understand. Trust the words that rise. For in that moment, you are no longer reading. You are remembering. This is the opening of your path. You're not adding knowledge. You're removing the dust that's been covering it. The sacred is not coming to you. It has always been within, waiting for your vibration to match its tone. That match is now. And what happens next? Next, we remember the law, the one that doesn't live in textbooks or theories. but moves stars and hearts alike. The force that responds to your frequency and brings life into form, not by accident, but by agreement. That law is always at work. The question is, are you aware of it? Let's step into it together. Some truths don't announce themselves with thunder. They don't appear in bright lights or miracles. They hum quietly beneath everything you've ever known. The law that holds planets in orbit, that tells flowers when to bloom, is the same law that listens to your thoughts and responds, not occasionally, but constantly. You've heard whispers of it before, the law of attraction. But it's not a trick, not a secret, not a technique to manifest a new car or a raise at work. It is the architecture of reality, the invisible music guiding the dance of existence. Clara learned this beneath a night sky, lying beside her grandfather. She was just a child, but her question was timeless. "Why don't the stars fall?" she asked, her voice full of wonder. His answer was not scientific. It was eternal. "They're held," he said, "by the same law that holds you. The law is resonance. The universe is not moved by your words, your needs, or even your dreams. It is moved by your frequency, by what you actually feel and believe beneath all that noise. It listens not with judgment, but with precision. It does not ask, 'Is this good or bad?' It only asks, 'What is being broadcast right now?' Think of yourself as a transmitter. Each thought a note, each emotion a tone. Together they form a signal that ripples outward into the infinite field. And just like a magnet attracts its match, your frequency pulls in what aligns with it. There is no escape from this mechanism. It is as impersonal as gravity. But it is also intimate, profoundly so. Because once you see it, truly see it, you understand that your life is not random. Your relationships, your finances, your opportunities, they are echoes of the energy you've been sending out. Take Walter, a carpenter who poured love into his work. Every curve of wood, every nail placed with care. During those seasons, his creations sang with beauty. But when he worked from frustration, rushing, fearing, striving, his chairs wobbled, his tables cracked. Same wood, same tools, different result. What changed? The unseen changed, and the unseen always leads. You might think, so I must control my thoughts at every second? No, that's not the way. The invitation isn't control, it's awareness. Begin by noticing. Just notice. When you feel tense, rushed, fearful, pause. That's your cue. Your vibration is speaking louder than your words ever could. Let's make this real. Tomorrow morning, before your phone, before the noise, place your hand on your heart. Breathe deeply 3 times. Then say, with quiet authority, "I am in perfect harmony with the universe. My frequency attracts all that serves my highest good." You are not pleading. You are not bargaining. You are aligning. These words are not affirmations. They are calibrations. And then watch. Not to see if something magical happens, but to sense how the day unfolds, how you respond to challenge, how people mirror your calm instead of chaos, how ease seems to return where once there was push. You're not tricking the universe. You're tuning yourself. That's the distinction. When a musician plays in tune, the audience feels it, even if they don't understand music. The universe works the same way. It feels your tone before you ever speak. And when your tone is clean, your intentions clear, your emotions congruent with your vision, then manifestation is not magic. It is math. It is inevitability. This is not a concept. It is a daily rhythm, one that grows stronger with repetition. So begin again each morning. It is not weakness to reset. It is mastery. Your thoughts may stray, your energy may dip, but your awareness brings you back over and over until alignment becomes your default. The law is always listening. The question is, what are you saying with your being? Let's walk further now into the soil, where all manifestation begins not with form, but with faith, where your desires root before they ever rise. In a quiet garden, behind a low stone wall, Mabel kneeled every day with cupped hands full of water and whispered blessings into what others saw as empty dirt. Her neighbors pitied her. They thought she had lost her mind, tending invisible flowers, caring for barren soil. But beneath that seemingly lifeless ground lay a golden lotus seed, silent and still, waiting for its moment. You are Mabel. You have planted seeds too. Desires, visions, yearnings. You've tended to dreams that haven't yet broken the surface. And perhaps you've wondered, is it working? Is anything really happening? The truth is, what you do not yet see may already be in motion. The process of manifestation begins beneath perception. Like a seed cracking open in complete darkness, transformation starts before light ever touches it. The most powerful shifts happen in silence, in patience, in the unseen. This is the mystery of becoming. And like all mysteries, it cannot be forced, only trusted. Calvin, an inventor, wrestled with this law for years. He designed devices to harness ocean waves, but failed again and again. Finally, weary and discouraged, he gave up. Not with bitterness, but with surrender. He packed his tools and folded his blueprints away. The next morning, while watching his daughter play with her toy boat in the bathtub, the answer came, not as logic, but as insight. The ripple, the bounce, the resonance. He had seen the solution 100 times, but only now, when he released the tension, did the puzzle solve itself. This is the paradox. Effort is sacred, but surrender is catalytic. The universe respects your labor, but it responds to your faith. Not blind faith, but the quiet, unshakable knowing that just because you cannot see the roots doesn't mean they aren't growing. When your outer world is still, it does not mean your dream is dying. It may mean it's rooting deeper, building the structure it needs to sustain the bloom. So much of what delays manifestation is not resistance from the world, but impatience from within. You dig up the seed with doubt. You shake the soil looking for signs. But a tree doesn't sprout under watchful fear. It thrives under calm belief. Close your eyes now. Imagine the seed. Not just any seed, but your seed. One that holds your desire. It rests in soil, moist and dark. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it, but feel it. The hum of life within it. The potential stretching slowly. The first root reaches down. The first shoot reaches up. It's all happening. And just because it isn't loud, doesn't mean it isn't real. Write this in your journal, like a sacred contract. I trust in the unseen unfolding of my desires. Like a seed becoming a tree, my manifestations are taking form in perfect, divine timing. Let this become your morning mantra, your midnight whisper, your deep breath in traffic. Let it be a new rhythm, faith without frenzy. Because spiritual maturity means you no longer chase signs of progress. You become the space in which progress occurs. What feels like silence is orchestration. What looks like stillness is movement. What appears as nothing is preparation for everything. And when the time is right, when the seed has gathered enough light from your trust, enough warmth from your gratitude, it will rise. Effortlessly, joyfully, inevitably. Until then, your work is devotion without demand. presence without pressure, love without conditions. And now that your faith is planted, we must speak of the mask, the performance so many wear that suffocates their magic. It is time to meet your true face again. In a small theater bathed in candlelight, Eleanor removed her makeup one evening and saw something that startled her. Not the smear of color or the tired skin beneath, but the absence of a self she could recognize. After 2 decades of playing queens, beggars, angels, and villains, she had forgotten what her own face looked like without performance. You have a mask, too. We all do. It was crafted from protection, polished by expectation, and worn for so long that it began to feel like skin. The roles you play, dutiful worker, perfect parent, cheerful friend, always strong one, may have once been necessary. But now, they are too tight. They ache, and the law of attraction, that cosmic mirror, does not respond to your mask. It responds to your essence. When you pretend, when you suppress, when you show up as the version of yourself designed for approval instead of truth, you fragment. You send mixed frequencies. You short-circuit your own power. Consider Frank, who for 60 years lived as Francis. A simple clerical error on his birth certificate assigned him a name he never chose, but quietly accepted. He answered to it, built a life around it. Until one day, in his grandmother's attic, he found a tattered Bible. There, in fading ink, was the name his parents had intended, Franklin, a name he had felt but never claimed. That single discovery unraveled decades of disconnection. He wept, not from sadness, but from recognition. He had always been Franklin. He had simply forgotten. You too may be living under someone else's label. A name, a role, a persona shaped by hands not your own. But the universe knows your true identity. It doesn't respond to the smile you force or the goals you mimic. It aligns with the vibration that pulses when you are most unguarded, most alive, most you. There is nothing spiritual about self-denial. There is nothing holy about hiding. True attraction, true manifestation, begins when you allow yourself to be seen. Not by others necessarily, but by yourself. To stand in the mirror and say, "This is me," flawed, glowing, grieving, becoming, and I am still worthy. Let's make this sacred. Find a quiet place with a mirror. Light a candle, a white or golden flame. Sit with yourself. Gaze into your own eyes, not to fix, not to judge, but to witness. Watch as the flicker of light reveals the contours of your face. Beyond the lines and expressions, look deeper, into the eyes behind your eyes. The soul that remembers. The being who came here with a purpose far beyond performance. This practice is not vanity. It is remembrance. Because until you see yourself clearly, fully, lovingly, you will keep attracting versions of life that match the mask, not the soul. Relationships that echo your pretense. Jobs that reflect your compromise. Circumstances that affirm your smallness. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it is precise. But when you remove the mask, when you move in the world with the rhythm of your truth, something shifts. Life stops being a stage and starts becoming a sanctuary. Your voice grows steadier. Your yes becomes real. Your no becomes sacred. You make decisions not from fear of rejection, but from clarity of alignment. And the law listens. The mirror shifts. What once felt out of reach begins to approach. Not because you worked harder, but because you resonated clearer. This is not the end of your unmasking. It is the beginning. And with each day you choose truth over performance, your frequency refines. Your light strengthens. Your path clears. You don't have to fix yourself. You only have to stop hiding. And as the mask falls, What rises is not a stranger, but your radiant, unguarded self. And what does that self begin to see in the mirror of life? Let's find out, because your reflection is about to speak. In a sun-drenched studio at the top of a hill, Helen painted with trembling hands. Faces appeared on her canvas, childlike, elderly, masculine, feminine, but they all bore the same quiet sadness, the same haunted eyes, the same sorrowful curve of the mouth. Though she tried to vary her subjects, they kept returning to her one truth. She was painting herself. Life is a mirror. Always. It doesn't show you what you say you are. It reflects what you believe you are. This is the law of reflection, and it runs deeper than attraction, deeper than emotion. It reflects your essence, even the parts you're not conscious of, especially those parts. Your relationships mirror your self-worth. Your health mirrors your inner harmony. Your abundance mirrors what you believe you deserve. This mirror doesn't lie, but it doesn't judge either. It simply reflects. George was beloved in his village, a generous man, always helping others. Yet he felt perpetually unseen, unloved in return. People were polite but distant. For years, this puzzled him, until one night, in deep silence, he realized the truth. A resentment lived in him. Not loud, not angry, but ancient, buried. It colored every interaction. Even as he gave warmth, he expected coldness. And so, the world obliged. That's how it works. What is hidden inside does not stay hidden. It gets projected. And then it circles back as reality. You may think life is happening to you, but in truth, it's responding through you. This is not blame. This is liberation. Because once you realize the source of your reflection is within, you no longer have to wait for others to change. You can shift the image by shifting you. Begin here. Take your journal and ask, what parts of my life are mirroring back unhealed beliefs? Don't analyze. Don't justify. Just write. Let your pen move. Especially note the patterns, the repeated themes, the relationships that feel like reruns. These aren't random. They are sacred echoes, calling your attention home. What triggers you is showing you where you've been wounded. What frustrates you is showing you where you feel powerless. What inspires you is showing you your forgotten potential. All of it is a map. All of it is feedback. And that means every painful moment can become a turning point. But only if you look. Looking doesn't mean obsessing. It means seeing with compassion. Like a mother tending a child's scraped knee. Not blaming, just soothing. There's a sacred practice here. Try it at dawn or dusk, when the light is soft. Sit somewhere quiet, open your journal, and write. What recurring emotional responses am I being asked to learn from? Let the words come. If you cry, good. That's not weakness. That's thawing. That's clarity rising. And when you finish writing, don't rush away. Sit with what came. Let it settle. Let it soak in like dew on dry earth. The awareness you just touched, that's the first healing. That's the shift in vibration that turns a distorted mirror clear again. Remember, the universe is not punishing you. It is teaching you through reflection, through repetition, through resonance. And when you shift what's within, you don't just change the mirror. You change what it can reflect. New relationships appear. New opportunities form. New peace becomes available. You don't need to fix the world. You just need to witness your part in it and bring that part into alignment. And now that you've begun to read the mirror, let's go deeper still, into the silence behind your thoughts, where the voice you've been waiting for has always whispered. Every morning, before the sun had fully crested the hills, Irene awoke to the same sensation, a breeze through the pines and a message in the air. Not words exactly, but a feeling. Remember who you are. At first, she dismissed it as imagination, a side effect of grief, maybe. Her husband had passed just months before, but the message came again and again, until it was louder in her silence than the voices around her. You know that voice, don't you? It's the whisper you ignore because it doesn't shout. The inner nudge that speaks in the pause, in the repetition of a symbol, in the moment your heart tightens for no reason. This is your intuition, your inner guidance system, the compass that never fails, only gets drowned out by noise. The modern world teaches you to value logic, to analyze, to predict, to decide based on evidence. But the sacred voice within does not speak in facts. It speaks in frequency. It speaks in feeling, and its wisdom surpasses what logic can contain. Samuel knew this. He was a blind watchmaker in a city of light. His hands moved across gears and springs with such precision, people swore he had second sight. But Samuel would smile and say, "I just listen to the metal. It tells me where it belongs." You can do the same, not with watches, with life. The signs are there. The universe does not leave you without guidance. It leaves breadcrumbs through dreams, synchronicities, sensations. But you must tune in. You must quiet the static. Have you ever known something without knowing how? Chosen not to enter a room and later found out why you were right? Felt drawn to a person or place for no logical reason? That's the current. That's the voice. And when you ignore it, life becomes harder. Not out of punishment, but because you've turned from the map. Let's begin to listen. Find a patch of nature, a garden, a tree, a window to the sky. Sit in silence for 20 minutes. No music, no scrolling, just breath, just presence. And then ask inwardly, what would you have me know today? Not to a deity outside, but to the wisdom within. You may hear a sentence, you may feel a pull, you may remember a name. Whatever arises, honor it, write it, welcome it. With practice, this channel grows stronger. Not because the signal strengthens, but because your receiving clears. The voice has always been there. You just forgot how to listen. Grace, a healer in training, studied with master after master. She collected certificates like trophies. But her real breakthrough came not from another seminar, but from silence. She sat with clients and let her own body speak. Subtle tension in her chest would guide her to ask a question. A warmth in her palms told her where to place them. Her power didn't come from study, it came from trust. And so will yours. You are not waiting for a guru. You are remembering how to be one for yourself. Every moment you pause to check in, every breath you take with presence, every time you say, "I don't know why, but this feels right," you return to the ancient rhythm of knowing. This is not about rejecting logic. It's about restoring balance, about letting intuition be your first response, not your last resort. Because when you live from that quiet knowing, life unfolds with grace. Things fall into place. Not because you planned them, but because you aligned with them. And now that the voice has your attention, the path will begin to shift. It won't be visible all at once, but don't worry. The way ahead reveals itself not through stillness alone, but through your first brave step into the mist. Dorothy spent her entire life mapping the world. She traced coastlines, charted mountain ranges, sketched river bends with exquisite care. Her maps were works of art, precise, detailed, admired across lands. But one morning, after years of drawing every possible path, she did something no one expected. She took all her maps and burned them because she had discovered something greater. The true path doesn't exist until you walk it. And you? You've probably been waiting for clarity, for the full picture, for assurance before you act. But the universe doesn't work like that. It won't give you a complete map in advance. Not because it's withholding, but because the map is made by your footsteps. The law of attraction responds not to planning, but to movement. Not to perfect readiness, but to willingness. So many people stand at the edge of their calling, paralyzed by uncertainty. They want the fog to clear before they take a step. But the fog is not an obstacle, it's a test. And it will only part when you walk into it. Howard learned this on his search for the Bridge of Legends, said to connect two distant mountain peaks. He arrived at the cliff's edge, shrouded in mist. He waited. Days passed. The fog never lifted. Then one day, he stepped forward, blindly, and with each step, the path revealed itself. The bridge wasn't visible from the start. It appeared beneath his feet, one plank at a time, only as he walked. This is how destiny works. You don't find the path. You create it with your trust. Take one inspired action today. Something small, but true. Something that calls to you and frightens you just a little. That tension? That flutter in your chest? That's the edge of growth. Before you begin, place your hand on your heart. Say aloud, I trust in the wisdom of the unfolding path. Then act, without waiting for applause, without needing to see where it leads. Write down what you did, what stirred in you. This is not just an action, it's a declaration. A message to the universe that says, I am ready to co-create. Because action, especially aligned action, is magnetic. It moves mountains, even if only by inches at first. You don't need to leap. You only need to lean forward. Even fear cannot cancel your path. It can only slow it. But once you step, the current returns. The clarity comes, not in the form of answers, but in experience. Each move you make whispers to the universe, I am here. I am alive. I am listening. And the universe replies, not with fanfare, but with openings. A phone call, a chance encounter, a sentence in a book you've read 10 times, but only now understand. That is the nature of divine choreography. It is subtle, but it is precise. If you stay frozen, waiting to feel ready, life passes you by. But when you move, imperfect, uncertain, but aligned, you create a ripple that stirs all of creation. The wave you begin now may carry your future towards you faster than you ever imagined. So let go of needing the full plan. Release the illusion of certainty. Trade it for sacred momentum. Because clarity is not the starting point. It is the reward. The fog ahead isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. And once you've stepped into motion, we must explore what is hidden right in front of you. The truths you've always known, yet have never truly seen. In the back corner of a weathered bookshop passed down through generations, Beatrice brushed her fingers along ancient spines, not looking for anything in particular. Yet again and again, she found the same phrase hidden across centuries, cultures, and disciplines. As within, so without. In Buddhist sutras, Hermetic scrolls, quantum physics, indigenous proverbs, it was all the same message, spoken through different mouths. You are surrounded by truth. It's never been hidden, only unnoticed. The law that shapes your life isn't buried in mystery. It's in lullabies and legends, in graffiti and sacred texts. It lives in fairy tales where belief comes before magic. It moves through science where the observer affects the outcome. It breathes in spiritual teachings that speak of sowing and reaping, asking and receiving, being and becoming. But we don't recognize it because we've been trained to look outside. To think wisdom lives in someone else's hands, that meaning must be explained to us. That truth wears robes and titles, and yet, the lighthouse appears on 3 postage stamps from different continents. The same bird crosses your path 3 days in a row. A stranger utters a phrase that's echoed in your dreams. These are not accidents. They are alignments. The universe has always been speaking to you in a language you knew before language. Through symbols. Ralph, a quantum physicist, spent years dissecting the behavior of subatomic particles, only to burst into laughter one night while reviewing an experiment. The math matched the words of ancient sages. What his formulas proved, the mystics had already whispered. Consciousness shapes reality. He had gone the long way around the spiral, science leading him back to the soul. And so have you. This truth, this law, has followed you all your life, wearing different costumes. A children's story, a lyric, a repeated number. It is not trying to be clever. It is trying to be recognized. Let's turn this into sacred practice. Think of the last 3 coincidences you experienced. A friend calling just as you thought of them. A book falling open to the exact passage you needed. A symbol repeating across your day. Write them down. Now feel them again. Not as random, but as coded communication. Can you sense the intelligence beneath them? The wink, the whisper. This is the universe speaking through your personal alphabet. It knows your signs. It speaks your language. But only if you slow down enough to hear it. Recognition is powerful. Once you name a symbol, it becomes a bridge. The lighthouse isn't just a picture now, it's a message. The owl isn't just a bird, it's wisdom arriving. The sequence 111 or 444 isn't just a clock glitch, it's resonance made visible. The universe hides nothing. It simply waits until your eyes are clear enough to see. And when you see it, truly, you don't need to force belief. You remember. You reconnect. What's important now is that you stop asking, "Is this real?" and start asking, "What is it showing me?" Because when your awareness sharpens, when your eyes soften, when your heart opens, suddenly, life becomes rich with guidance. The veil thins. You no longer move blindly. You walk in conversation with creation itself. This is not about signs in the sky. It's about recognizing that every step, every sound, every glance can carry sacred intelligence, if you let it. So begin watching with wonder. Begin listening without needing volume. Begin trusting what catches your attention again and again, because the universe has never been silent. It has only been waiting for you to realize. You've been reading its messages all along. And just when you begin to listen more deeply, something else awakens. The recognition that timing isn't random either. That every encounter, delay, and detour might just be divine choreography, perfectly placed. In the clamor of a bustling market, Agnes stood frozen, her gaze locked on a bed of lilies she didn't need. She had just retired from 3 decades of teaching, and beneath the noise around her, a quiet ache had begun to rise. Did it matter? Did I leave anything behind? Just then, a voice pierced the crowd. "Mrs. Agnes, do you remember me?" A young woman stepped forward, eyes brimming. "You told me once, never give up. I didn't. I now run a school for girls just like I was. That one moment dissolved years of doubt. It was not coincidence. It was design. This is the sacred choreography of timing. The universe does not only care what happens, it cares when. You may call it coincidence, but it's actually synchronicity. A pattern too perfect to be random. An alignment of events set into motion not by luck, but by the energetic signals you send. What you experience is not just the result of intention, it is the unfolding of divine timing. Norman lost his wallet on a day when losing it felt like disaster. It held contracts, cash, keys to his career. In his search, he ended up in a small cafe, desperate and panicked. There, a man named Thomas returned the wallet. Over coffee, they discovered a shared vision. That chance meeting turned into a partnership that changed both of their lives. The timing of their encounter was not an accident. It was a result of energy and readiness. What seemed like misfortune was actually a portal, a divine detour to destiny. You've experienced this too. Think of a missed bus that led to an important meeting, a breakup that freed you for something more aligned, a rejection that turned out to be redirection. We often beg for manifestations and grow restless when they're slow. But what you call delay, the universe calls preparation. The unseen alignment of people, places, and events that must occur for the outcome to arrive in its highest form. The law of attraction is not just about calling in what you want, it's about trusting when it arrives. Take time now for a sacred reflection. Recall 5 moments in your life that once felt like setbacks, but later revealed themselves as blessings. Write them down. Feel them again, not from the lens of frustration, but from reverence. Let them remind you. The universe is not only listening, it is synchronizing. And here's a truth often overlooked. Your soul knows the timeline, even when your mind doesn't. When something hasn't come yet, it's not because you're being punished. It's because the foundation isn't finished. The puzzle pieces are still arranging behind the curtain. Divine timing doesn't reward speed. It rewards alignment. It teaches you patience that isn't passive, but powerful. You learn to wait with presence, not with resignation. To walk slowly, not because you're behind, but because you trust the choreography unfolding beneath your feet. Every delay, every detour, every silence is an act of love. It is protection, preparation, positioning. Sometimes not getting what you want when you want it is the greatest miracle. Sometimes the no is making way for a bigger yes. So instead of asking, "Why hasn't it come?" ask, "What is being prepared for me?" And instead of pushing forward blindly, listen for the gentle whisper, "Wait here, just a little longer." Because timing isn't a detail, it's part of the message. And as you align with trust in that perfect unfolding, you'll begin to notice a shift, not just in what shows up, but in how you receive it. The universe cannot give fully to hands that refuse to open, and so we must talk about receiving, not as luxury, but as sacred skill. In a quiet village tucked between hills and healing winds, Pauline moved from house to house, guiding life into the world. She had helped deliver hundreds of babies. Yet, when someone offered her thanks, a gift, a gesture of gratitude, she'd wave it away. "Your health is all I need," she would say, disappearing before they could insist. Her hands gave life. Her heart gave everything. But her soul, it was starving. One evening, after a particularly long birth, an old woman appeared at Pauline's doorstep. She carried a cup of herbal tea and placed it in Pauline's trembling hands. As Pauline tried to refuse, the woman said quietly, "To reject a gift is to deny the giver their joy." And with those words, something cracked open. You've been taught how to give, to show up, to serve, to sacrifice. But have you been taught how to receive? Receiving is not indulgence. It is not selfish. It is not weakness. It is alignment. The universe operates in cycles. Inhale and exhale. Give and receive. Ebb and flow. When you only give, but do not receive, you break the sacred rhythm. You block the return current. You declare, "I am not ready for more." And the universe listens. Oscar was a woodworker whose art was admired by all. But when customers praised him or tried to pay more, He'd laugh, dismiss the compliment, and undercharge. "It's just something I do for love," he'd say. His talent remained hidden, underpaid, and underappreciated because he refused to receive. It wasn't until a friend asked, "Whose light are you dimming when you devalue your gift?" that something shifted. Oscar raised his prices. He smiled when praised. He said simply, "Thank you." And life met him with more, because he was finally open to let it in. You cannot outgive your capacity to receive. Eventually, exhaustion takes over. Resentment creeps in, and your gifts lose their radiance. The law of attraction doesn't just respond to your desire. It responds to your readiness, your openness, your ability to say, "Yes, I receive, I allow." Let's shift this now with a sacred practice. Stand tall, feet planted, arms raised to the sky, palms open. Breathe in fully. As you exhale, speak these words. I am ready and willing to receive, with ease, joy, and gratitude. Feel it, not just as a phrase, but as an energetic doorway. Let any tension you feel rise to the surface. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's an old belief that says you must earn everything, that love must be proven, that abundance is for others. Let it rise and breathe it out. Because the truth is, your worthiness was never in question. You don't receive because you've proven enough. You receive because you exist. And when you receive fully, you don't take, you complete the circuit. You affirm that energy can flow both ways, that the one who gives to you is blessed by your openness. So next time someone offers help or kindness or recognition, resist the urge to deflect. Pause. Look them in the eyes. Say, "Thank you." Let the gift enter. Let it nourish. This is how you deepen your frequency. This is how you tell the universe, "I am ready for more." And once that door opens, what follows is extraordinary. Not because it's new, but because now you finally let it in. You've asked, you've given, you've prepared. Now let yourself have, and in that sacred openness, you begin to feel something deeper rising. The kind of faith that needs no evidence, only resonance. The kind of belief that turns into becoming. In the chapel where sea winds whispered through cracks in stained glass, Eliza lit a single candle every evening. It had been years since her husband's ship disappeared beyond the horizon, yet she returned, night after night, to the lighthouse where he had once served. The townsfolk pitied her devotion, calling it delusion, calling it grief. But Eliza knew better. Faith, she understood, was not measured in answers. It was measured in flame, and so is yours. You've waited. You've believed. You've walked through fog and silence and still shown up again. You didn't quit when things didn't arrive. That's not just hope. That's unshakable faith. The law of attraction is not about pleading to the universe. It's about holding the vibration of knowing even when there's no evidence. Like a seed planted in the dark, your desires are already in motion. They're real. They exist. Not in form yet, but in frequency. And frequency is where reality begins. Reuben inherited a barren field from his father. The soil was cracked, dry, deemed worthless. But Reuben rose each day, blessing the ground as if it were bursting with wildflowers. He spoke to the seeds before he planted them. He acted not from fantasy, but from alignment. Not one flower grew that year, but the next spring, color erupted. Flowers unseen for generations returned. The locals called it a miracle. But Reuben knew it wasn't a miracle. It was the fruit of belief held longer than doubt. And this is what you're being called to. to speak to your vision as though it already exists, to love your future self as though you've already met, to act with the assurance of someone who understands. Reality is catching up to what you've already become inside. So here's your sacred practice. Each morning, as light returns to the world, place your hand over your heart and speak. When what I have asked for is already making its way to me, feel the truth of it, not in the thinking mind, but in the body, in your chest, in your breath, in your belly. This isn't just words. It's energetic alignment. It's tuning your whole being to the frequency of what is already real. Because when you speak from faith, you aren't begging, you are joining. You're stepping into the vibration that allows the unseen to become seen. Faith doesn't mean you never waver. It means you come back. You will have moments of doubt. That's okay. The key is not to eliminate doubt, but to anchor deeper than it. When the storm comes, the lighthouse does not panic. It shines. Let your words be light. Let your heart be the tower. Let your being be the place where the promise stays alive, even when the horizon disappears. You've already seen signs, glimpses, winks from the universe. You've felt the alignment. You've noticed the moments when your energy was clear and reality responded instantly. Now make that clarity your baseline. Faith is not blind. It sees something others can't yet see. It hears something others have forgotten how to listen for. And as you root deeper into that vibration, the world begins to echo your certainty. The path firms beneath your feet. Doors open without knocking. Support arrives without explanation. Why? Because you stopped asking if and started moving as though it already is. The universe doesn't give you what you want. It mirrors what you are. And when you are faith, not just someone having it, when you embody it, walk it, speak from it, you become a beacon, like Eliza's candle cutting through years of darkness, like Reuben's voice, blessing an empty field until the soil remembered. That's who you are now. And once faith becomes your frequency, you stop chasing your desires, you become them. And what does that look like in action? Let's go there now, into the moment where you step beyond belief and into full embodiment. In a modest sewing room filled with the scent of lavender and the hum of a well-worn machine, Pearl stitched not for customers, but for the woman she was becoming. Her clothes didn't reflect her small town, her modest income, or her fading social circles. They reflected silk, precision, grace. Every thread said, "I know who I am," even before the world does. This is embodiment. You've done the inner work. You've planted the seeds. You've spoken the words. But now comes the step that draws the desire from thought into form. Living as if it's already here. Not pretending, not faking, being. The law of attraction doesn't respond to dreams in the future tense. It responds to the frequency you inhabit now. Your energy must match the reality you want. Not eventually, but immediately. Gordon understood this. He worked in the basement mailroom of a corporate tower, unseen and unnoticed. But each morning, he wore a pressed suit, not out of delusion, but out of declaration. He greeted others like a peer, not a subordinate. He made decisions as if he already had authority. And one day, he was called upstairs, not to deliver a package, but to take a leadership position they never knew he was preparing for. Why? Because Gordon's reality had already shifted, long before the outer world caught up. This is the secret few talk about. Manifestation is not about receiving, it's about matching. Who would you be if your deepest desire had already come true? How would you move? How would you speak? What energy would you carry into a room? Start there. Live from that place. This doesn't require money. It doesn't require applause. It only requires decision. And that decision becomes a vibration the universe cannot ignore. So choose one desire close to your heart. Something sacred, something real. Close your eyes and ask, how would I live if this were already true? Then act accordingly, not someday, now. Maybe it's rearranging your space to reflect abundance, not lack. Maybe it's speaking with confidence instead of permission. Maybe it's taking care of your body the way someone at peace with themselves would. This is not performance. This is alignment. Each time you embody your future self, you bring that version closer. Not as possibility, but as inevitability. Because the universe does not delay what you are ready to carry. And readiness is measured not by desire, but by embodiment. Even your language begins to shift. You stop saying, I want, and start saying, I allow. You stop seeking proof. You become the evidence. Your reflection changes. Your environment reshapes. And most importantly, your choices become clearer. Because they now serve the self that already is, not the self still waiting to become. This is not magic. It is coherence. Energy finally aligning with intention. Thought, emotion, and action moving as one. When you do this consistently, day after day, you become magnetic. You emit the reality you desire so clearly that it can't help but materialize. You've heard it said, act as if. But this goes deeper. This is not acting. This is becoming. You already are the version of yourself who has what you desire. Your task is simply to catch up to that truth. So put on the clothes, speak the words, create the environment, bless your food, honor your body, align with your highest frequency. Because when your inner vibration and outer behavior say the same thing, reality responds with speed. And from here, where you're no longer dreaming, but living the dream's vibration, we arrive at the final threshold. Not as seekers, not even as manifestors, but as expressions of a truth so deep, it no longer needs to be claimed. It simply is. In the heart of a glass tower that shimmered above the city skyline, Marion stood at her window, gripping reports that forecast collapse. For 20 years, she had built her empire brick by brick, through force, through grit, through absolute control. Her motto had always been clear: if I don't hold it all together, everything falls apart. But that morning, something broke. Not in the markets, in her hands. The papers fell to the floor, fluttering like leaves, and in their silence, she heard something she had forgotten. You don't have to hold it all alone. Power, she realized, was never meant to come from force. True power flows from alignment. You may know this struggle, the endless effort, the checklist, the pushing, always pushing, until your very dreams feel like burdens. But the law of attraction does not respond to how hard you try. It responds to how clearly you allow. Chester learned this the hard way. For decades, he stayed up late inventing, building, proving himself through blueprints and failed launches. Each disappointment pushed him harder. Each no made him press forward, more desperate than before. Until the collapse came. Funding gone. Name tarnished. Heart exhausted. And in that collapse, finally, he let go. Not in despair, but in surrender. And in that space, something moved. The solution he had chased for years arrived not through force, but through flow. Effortless, obvious. The invention came through him like a river finding its way to the sea. This is the paradox of manifestation. The more you push, the more you repel. The more you surrender, the more you receive. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. To a wisdom greater than your mind. To the divine intelligence already arranging every thread. The ego says, make it happen. The soul says, align and allow. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Take a breath now. Feel into the place where you're still gripping. That one desire, that one area where you feel tension, frustration, control. Notice it, bless it, and gently open your hand, energetically and literally. Now speak these words aloud. I do not chase, I align, I trust, I receive. Let it echo through your body. When you stop chasing, you create space. When you stop needing, you create magnetism. You become a field of receptivity, not resistance. You let life come to you. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started trusting. You were never meant to manipulate outcomes. You were meant to co-create with a field of intelligence far greater than your strategies. This doesn't mean you never act. It means your action comes from peace, not panic. From clarity, not chaos. From inspiration, not insecurity. You're no longer forcing the river. You're moving with its current. And when you do, opportunities find you. Resources flow to you. Solutions arise where struggle once lived. Because life loves to fill an open space. And surrender is the clearing. So what does this mean now? It means you've crossed the threshold. You've moved from seeker to seer. From dreamer to embodiment. From striving to being. And it's time to live not as someone who learns the truth, but as someone who is the truth. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your return. The start of a life where you no longer ask for signs, but become the sign. Let's close this book not with an ending, but with a rising, a becoming, a vow, because your path is no longer something to find. It is now something you carry. The pages have fallen silent now, but something deeper has awakened within you. Something that does not need ink or voice to speak. Because what you've just experienced was never a teaching. It was a remembering. Not of who you should be, but of who you already are. You've walked through the chambers of awakening, alignment, trust, and embodiment. Not as a tourist, but as a soul returning home. You were never meant to live at the mercy of the external, chasing signs, hunting proof, waiting for validation. Because everything you sought was always encoded within you. The wisdom, the timing, the guidance, the light. The real journey wasn't upward or outward, it was inward. And now, standing here, you no longer ask the universe for permission. You are the permission. The mirror that once reflected confusion now reveals clarity. The fog that once obscured the path has become your guide. The silence that once felt lonely now feels sacred. Because you finally see, the answers were never out there. You are not a student of the universe. You are a voice of it. You are not a receiver of light. You are its expression. Every word you now speak, every presence you carry into a room, every act of calm or courage or compassion, these are not performances. They are the evidence of a soul embodied. So here, as this story breathes its final breath, you are given not a closing, but a commission. Live the law you've remembered. Speak only from your aligned self. Walk as if the path has already been made, because it has. By your being, by your vibration, by your willingness to become. And should the old doubts return, should fear whisper again, should you forget even for a moment, that's all right. You now know the way back. You now remember the sound of your truth, the scent of sacred timing, the feeling of resonance that no mind can fabricate. Let your presence become the prayer. Let your calm become the map. Let your joy become the invitation for others to awaken. Because this book has chosen you not just to receive, but to radiate. So now close your eyes, breathe deep, and speak these words aloud as your vow. I walk in alignment. I trust my knowing. I remember who I am, and I allow the universe to live through me. This is not the end. This is the becoming. This is the moment you stop reading the story and start living it.